Right, shalom, shalom. I'm going to start out this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone that rule well and teach well while learning the truth 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophet servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to the Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere, and your children. Shalom. And in today's video, as you can see, is going to be building off of this article that I got. And it says Trump authorizes ICE agents to protect themselves using whatever means necessary. Right. So here it is. You got basically Donald Trump telling ICE, due to them, rounding people up and deporting them and, things like that, that they can use whatever means necessary, which basically they can use force, if people don't want to comply with basically whatever it is that they're trying to do, then they have the right to use whatever means necessary, right? So that means they can delete you, they can, do whatever basically. And this was given to them by Donald Trump, right? So I'm actually read on down. It says Donald Trump has given total authorization to federal immigration agents to protect themselves after a series of clashes with protesters, including during enforcement raids on 2 California cannabis farms, right? So I'm going to go down. It says, this is Donald Trump. It says, I am giving total authorization for ICE to protect itself just like they protect the public. Trump posted on Truth Social on Friday, adding that he was directing the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Border Cesar Tom Homan to arrest anti-immigration and customs enforcement ICE protesters who impede immigration enforcement operations. Trump said he told the administration to instruct all ICE, Homeland Security, or any other law enforcement who is on the receiving end of thrown rocks, bricks, or any other form of assault to stop their car and arrest these slime balls using whatsoever means is necessary to do so, right? So you basically hear what it is that Trump is saying. He basically giving ICE the power to, do whatever they want to do to the American citizens, man. And we know that this time is ultimately going to happen because it's all going according to prophecy, and we know the Lord said that he would do that. This is Isaiah chapter 19, and I'm going to start at verse 2. It says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, talking about these modern day people here in America, man, right? And it says, and they shall fight, right? Everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, man. And that's ultimately what's going to come out of all of this, because we know that once these ICE agents, which they will in the very near future, start, using lethal force against these Americans, which they're going to do, because we know this all goes according to prophecy, that these things are going to take place, man. So we know that there's going to be fighting amongst these people, man. And it's coming very soon. And we're seeing the beginning stages of these events actually beginning to kick off. It's going to start off small, but it's going to continue to grow and grow as time progresses, right? But this is 2nd Ezra chapter 15, and I'm going to start at verse 14, because this is the time of season that we're in, man. These are the times that are about to manifest themselves. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Woe meaning destruction, right? Because that's what's getting ready to come into this place, America. A lot of destruction and chaos, man. Right, verse 15, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, which means it's coming soon, right? And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that's what you're going to see happening during these ICE raids, man. Because once ICE begin to fully start cracking down on these people, the way that Donald Trump is going to allow them to do in the very near future, when things become more hectic out here, guess what? These American citizens are going to begin to fight. That's when you're going to have the civil wars, civil unrest, mayhem, anarchy, chaos, pandemonium, all of these things happening at a higher scale, man, and we're living in that time of season where these evils are about to manifest, So it says, verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men. And this is the time of season that we're living in. This is what's about to take place, man, because we know that ICE is going to come after the southern kingdom next. They're going after the northern kingdom now, but soon to come, in the very near future, they're going to come after the southern kingdom, which are you so-called Haitians, you so-called African Americans, you so-called Jamaicans, man, right? They're going to come after you next, right? And that's going to cause a lot of uproars, a lot of fighting. The people are going to be fighting against the government. What you see happening now in LA and all of these other different states, that is only the small scale of what's to come in the very near future. All of these events are going to get worse, right? So it says, for there should be sedition among men. That word sedition, when you go into it, it means people fighting against the government, man. Fighting against the authority, right? And that's what these people are going to be doing very soon here in this country, America. And we're seeing the beginning stages of it with this whole ICE deportation stuff, right? Because sooner or later, these Babylonians, these people, they're going to get tired of being rounded up, man, and shipped off and thrown into these concentration centers. They're going to take matters into their own hands. So they're going to revolt against the government. And that's what's going to happen. That's why you see Trump getting everybody's mind prepared with the military, That's why every situation that occur, they're deploying National Guard or either the U.S. Marines, because they know that sooner or later that these people are not going to listen to what they're saying, and that these people are going to bug out and take matters into their own hands, and they're going to do whatever they want to do. And this is what these devils, right, these politicians, that's what they're preparing for, because they know that this time is going to happen. Right. And they're preparing for it. They're putting everything in place so that when it does happen, they know how to, conceal it. Right. It's called ordo ab chaos. They create the problem. Right. Which is Joe Biden. During 2020, he left the border open, allowed all of these, so-called immigrants, which they're not immigrants. Majority of them that came over here were Israelites from the Northern Kingdom. But you also had a lot of different other nations as well coming over here. You had so-called Africans. You had so-called Japanese, so-called Chinese, so-called, Russians, so-called Europeans. But as we can see with what's happening, the only people that they're going after are the Northern Kingdom and soon the Southern Kingdom. So that's going to cause a lot of chaos, man. So it says, for there should be sedition among men and invading one another, right? They shall not regard their kings nor princes. That's talking about the government, man. That's talking about the police. That's talking about these ICE agents, all of these different people, right? People soon to come are not going to be regarding these people. They're not going to be listening to them. Soon to come, these people are going to take it upon themselves to inflict pain upon these people, man. Right. That's why you got Trump telling ICE that they can use lethal force or they can do whatever means necessary to fulfill what it is that they have to do. And we know what he mean by that, man. What do you think he's talking about when he say you can do whatever you got to do? Because, they're doing everything already, rounding people up, snatching them up. What else do you want them to do? So he's putting it in their mind and letting them know that, hey, if you delete some of these people, that, hey, you won't be held accountable for it. You can do it. That's basically what he's giving them power to do. And this is what's going to cause all of the chaos, man. Right. This is what's going to make everything worse than what it already is, but like I said, ordo ab chaos, that's what these devils want to do. They create the problem. Right. Joe Biden allowing the immigrants to come over here during those 4 years. Right. Allowing these illegal people in this country. Then you got the reaction of the people, which are complaining and saying, oh, man, these people got to get out of here. They're criminals. They're bad. And then you got Donald Trump coming in, which they're all the same puppets. They're all being controlled by these elites. So you got Trump, he's coming in and he basically, coming with the order, problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem. They look at the reaction of the people and they come in with the solution. And Trump is bringing the solution, which is going to be these ICE agents that are out here that are active, man. They're the solutions to the so-called immigrant crisis. But like I said, all of this stuff is going to spiral out of control and it's going to bring forth chaos, man. And that's ultimately what these devils want to bring, because then that gives them the excuse, right, to bring in that new world order system. And that's ultimately what they want to bring in. That's what everything is being, pushed towards, right? So it says, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power, right? And this is verse 17, right? Because we know ultimately once this sedition among men begins to really pop off in this place, America, and these events really begin to take place, that guess what? They're already going to have martial law in place. That's why you had Donald Trump, I believe 2-3 months ago, he put it on the board, the Insurrection Act of 1807, which goes into if there's any civil unrest or any civil chaos happening in America, that they can implement martial law. He put this on the books, I believe, 3 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. So why would he do that? Because ultimately they know that soon to come that these people here in America are going to bug out because of all of the stuff that we're doing and that we're bringing forth, that these people are going to eventually lose it. And they're preparing for all of that. So as it says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. You won't be able to go into a city because guess what? You're going to have martial law in place, man. These same military Marine soldiers that they're getting people's mind used to seeing, and these National Guard troops coming down the streets in armored vehicles and tanks. That's what's going to be happening in all of these states throughout the U.S., man. Everything is going to be boarded up. You won't be able to move around freely. And that's what time of season we're about to come into, right? And then due to all of the chaos and the violence that's going to be happening, you won't be able to move around at your own will, because it's going to be that chaotic out here, man. These are the times and seasons that we're coming into, right? But this is what it says, verse 18, for because of their pride, right, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid, right? So this all goes back to the wickedness of these people, man. The punishment that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is going to bring upon this place. This is ultimately why we're going to see all of these events begin to take place and to manifest, because we're living in that time and season of judgment when the Lord is going to allow Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, to bring forth all of his unrighteous dealings, man, to bring forth judgment upon these wicked people here in this Babylon, America, man. So that's what time and season we're in. And I'm actually go to a precept just proving that. This is Isaiah chapter 19, and I'm going to read verse 4. It said, and the Egyptians, talking about you modern day Americans, will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, right, which is Donald Trump, Nero, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. And you can tell how Donald Trump is starting off, man, that he's that cruel Lord, man. You can see how he's acting. You can see what he's saying. You can see all of the things that he's doing. Look at what he's doing. They say actions speak louder than words. So though he say what he's going to do with his mouth, look at what he's doing with his actions. You can tell that this man is that cruel Lord. He's bringing forth all type of unrighteous decrees. He's setting up prison camps to throw you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, Indians into them. These are all of the things in which it is these people are doing. So we can ultimately see that this man is that cruel Lord that the scriptures talk about, and he's only going to get more wickeder as time goes on, man. This man is going to get more sinister. He's going to bring more draconian laws. And it's going to get more hectic out here in this place, America, man. This is what we're warning you people that's to come, But we know only the elect are going to take heed to these warnings and the other people will not, man. So I'm actually go to this precept right here because this is the time and season that we're in. Because like I said earlier, you had a lot of people that came over here across the southern border during those 4 years of Biden. You had so-called Chinese, you had so-called Europeans, you had so-called Africans. You had all of these different heathen nations that came across here. But mind you, they're only worried about the so-called Latinos that came over here, right? The so-called Hispanics. Those are the only people that they're targeting, right? And soon to come, they're finna come after the southern kingdom as well. That's why you just had Donald Trump, I believe like a week or two ago, he just revoked 500,000 deportation status for these Haitians, man, or so-called Haitians. He revoked their citizenship status. So they're going to get deported very soon, man. So like I said, we're getting ready to come into the time of Jacob's trouble. That's what everything is building up towards, and we see it, because ultimately we know who these devils are going to be coming after when they really fully kick in with everything that they're trying to do and accomplish. We know who they're coming after. But like I said before, we warned you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians that these times were coming and that we're living in them. And to get right with the Lord, man, So this is Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. It said, therefore rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil, right, which is talking about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is come down unto you, right, talking about you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, having great wrath, right? Because he knoweth that he had but a short time. So this man ultimately knows he's at the end of his system, man. He's at the end of him being in power and rulership. And he wants to keep on and hold on to that power as he can. So what he's going to do, he's going to come down upon you Israelites, who he know is next to rule, right? Because as it tells you in 2nd Esdras 6 and 9, for Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. He wants to eradicate you Israelites, man. And that's ultimately the goal of this devil. That's what he wants to do, right? That's why you see him coming with unrighteous decrees. That's why you see him setting up ICE and military patrol. He's not setting these people up ultimately to come after these heathens or to come after these so-called white people. No, he's setting them up to come after you Israelites, man. And that's what we've been warning you people about. But like I said, nobody wants to believe. Nobody wants to take heed, But hey, you people are about to see very soon, man, because this stuff is about to get real out here in this place. This is Ezekiel chapter 21, right? And I'm going to start at verse 8 in the KJV. And it says, again, the word of the Lord came unto me saying, right? Verse 9, Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord, say a sword is sharpened and also furbished, right? That sword represent Esau, Edom, man, the so-called white man, right? Because you see everything that he's doing and putting in place is ultimately to come down with that great wrath, to come down with that fierce anger, to come down amongst you Israelites tremendously, man. You know, everything that he's doing is being set up for that to happen. You know, everything you see him putting in place, like I said, is all to come after you tribes, man. It's not to come after anybody else. You know, you people are going to be public enemy number one, man. The Israelites, right? And that all goes back to this ancient hate, this perpetual hatred that this devil ultimately has towards Jake, right? That he's about to unleash, you know. So this is verse 10. It said, it is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth, right? And that's what a lot of Israelites are doing, man. Here it is. You got all of this hell getting ready to break loose right in front of these people's faces. And they're still in that spirit of having fun, laughing, joking, you know, taking everything for granted, you know, laughing and stuff and just a game to these people, you know. But hey, it's not going to be soon to come, right? It said, it contemneth the rod of my son as every tree, right? This verse 11. It said, and he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be handled. This sword is sharpened, and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. Who is that slayer? The so-called white man, right? Verse 12, and it said, cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be upon my people. It shall be upon all the princes of Israel, terrors by reason of the sword, right? Shall be upon my people, smite therefore upon thy thigh, right? And when it says terrors by reason of the sword, because that's what Esau Edom is about to do in these times, man. He's about to bring terror upon you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians. You know, this is the time and season that we're living in, and this is the time that is about to approach. Because as I said earlier, we're getting ready to come into that time of Jacob's trouble, man. And this devil's about to show that true hatred that he has towards you tribes, man, right? And I'm actually go to that, right? Bear with me. This is Jeremiah chapter 30, right? And I'm going to start at verse 4 in the KJV, right? And it said, and these are the words that the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah, right? Both northern and southern kingdom, all 12 tribes, right? Because this is going to come upon all 12 tribes. Though you Jakes out there only see the northern kingdom getting jacked up and snatched up, you thinking it's going to end with them. But no, once these devils feel like they done had enough with northern kingdom, they're going to come after you southern kingdom as well, you so-called black people, man. You know, so you're not spared from this neither, man. These miseries are going to befall you 2/3, you know. This is verse 5. It says, for thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear and not of peace, man. See, because that's the time and seasons that we're fastly coming into, where a lot of people believe that there's going to be peace coming for this country, America. They believe what this devil tells them, that he's going to make America great again. Everything is going to get better. The economy is going to get, you know, better. And, you know, things are going to, you know, come from out of this low place that they're at. And things are going to get better and better for this American country. That's what these devils tell you. But he's only speaking that to his own people, to these Edomites. That's the mindset that he has for his people. He's not making America great for you Jakes. Because, right, when have it ever been good for the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American man? You know? So, hey, he's only making it great for these heathens, man. You know? And a lot of you Jakes are about to realize that very soon. That's why the scriptures tell us. I'm going to get that. This is Ecclesiasticus. You know, chapter 12, right? And I'm going to start at verse 10, right? And it says, never trust thine enemy, right? Who's our enemy? The so-called white man. And a lot of our people, they've been trusting in this devil, trusting everything that this man has told them. You got a lot of northern kingdoms now that are getting snatched up. The same Jakes that voted for this devil. And a lot of you southern kingdom Jakes that voted for this man as well. He's about to start snatching you up very soon. So that's why it tells you to never trust thine enemy. For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, man, right? So as iron rusteth, the worse it becomes. That's the same thing with this man's personality and his character and his mindset. The more we get closer and closer to this devil, knowing that he's about to come out of the power seat, the more evil he's about to get towards you tribes, man. And the more he's about to get more sinister, and the more he's about to come down upon you with more wrath and more draconian measures, man. Right? This is verse 11. Though he humble himself, right? Telling you he gonna make America great again. Oh, he gonna make the economy better. You know, he's gonna bring more jobs and all of this madness, right? That's what he tell you, you know. It tells you in Psalms 55 and 21 that the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, right? The words of his mouth were softer than oil, yet were they drawing swords, man. So you can't never trust this man, you know, at the end of the day, because he's the devil. He wasn't created to be your ally. He was created to be your enemy, man. He was created to oppress you, man. You know, that was the sole reason of the Lord creating this man, for him to be the wicked, you know. It says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, right? And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped the looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. And that's what a lot of you Israelites are about to get a rude wake-up call too, that you thought this man loved you, you thought he cared about you, you thought that he was nice, you thought that he wanted to be your friend. But you people are about to see very soon that this is that same devil from back then that were, you know, torturing our people, that brought you over here during the transatlantic slave trade, that were hanging you, feeding you to alligators, you know, doing all of the wickedness that he did. You're about to see that this is that same devil, man, when he starts to show those horns, right? During this time that we're coming into Jacob's trouble, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 6. It says, ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child, right? And the answer to that is no. But this is what's going to happen, because a lot of fear is going to be upon you 2/3, man. You so-called Negro, Latino, Native American men, you know, that are out here, you know, doing all type of manners of wickedness. When the Lord really allows this devil to come down upon you, Jakes, you Israelites are going to be scared, man. You're not going to know what to do, because you're not going to have the Lord with you to protect you in that time. So you're going to be overtaken by fear, right? And that's going to be the judgment for a lot of you Israelites, man. Mainly you 2/3, you know. It says, ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness, right? Fear is going to overtake these people, right? As I read earlier in 2nd Esdras 15, right? And I'm going to get that again. And I'm going to start at verse 18. It said, for because of their pride, right, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid, right? So that's why they're going to be afraid, because of that pride, man. Because once Esau comes down upon you, Jakes, with that wrath, all of that pride and arrogancy and that high-mindedness and thinking that you better than the next person and all of this madness, all of that is going to come to an end real quick, you know. And that's what the Lord is about to bring, shame to you 2/3, man. You know, because you're going to be the main ones that is going to suffer during these times of Jacob's trouble, when all of these things do begin to happen, you know, because the Lord is going to be with his elect. But for you 2/3, it's going to be crazy for you people, man. This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. It said, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, right? Meaning you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians. But he shall be saved out of it, right? And who is that talking about? That's talking about none other than the elect, right? The 1/3 remnant. Lord's will, we pray to be a part of that. They're going to be the only ones that is going to escape this judgment, really. The rest of you Israelites, you're going to get caught up in it. You're going to get judged. Esau is going to throw you into these prison camps. His military is going to, you know, be snatching you out of your houses and doing all type of manners of things against you, man, right? Because the Lord is going to allow this man to do these things unto you, right? Because King David even said that this man was the sword of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. And I'm actually go to that precept. This is Psalms chapter 17, verse 13. It said, arise, O Lord, disappoint him and cast him down. Deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword, right? So the so-called white man is the sword. He's the whooping stick on the left-hand side of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. So the Lord is going to allow this man to get busy upon a lot of you Israelites in these times. And like I read in 2nd Esdras 15 and 18, it all goes back to your pride and your wickedness, man. This is why you people are going to be judged. This is why you people are going to find yourselves in these terrible situations, man, that you're not going to be able to get out of, you know, due to your pride, man. And I'm actually going to that precept. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 8. And verse 50, right? And I'm going to read it in two translations, in the GNT, and I'm going to read it in the 1611 KJV, right? But this is 2nd Esdras 8 and 15. Second Edges 8 and 50, Salakia in the 16:11. It says, "For many great misery shall be done unto them," right? Talking about you 2/3 and you heathens, "that in the latter time, which is the time that we're in now, shall dwell in the world because they have walked in great pride," man. So like I said, that's going to be the reason why this hell and this chaos and this horror going to come upon you Jakes, man, and you Eves out there. It all goes back to your pride and your wickedness. You know, this is Second Edges 8 and 50 in the GNT. It says, "The people of this world who have lived their lives in pride, right, and arrogance will suffer many things in the last days," right? And that's the time and season that we're in, man, where the Lord is about to allow this devil to unleash upon you Israelites, man, right? And those are going to be the Lord pouring out those judgments upon you, man, you know, for your wickedness, you know, for not repenting, for not getting right with the Lord, for taking this grace period for a joke, for, you know, being wicked, man, not turning away from your wrong thoughts, sayings, and doings, and seeking the Lord. You know, you took everything for a game, right? So, I mean, hey, the Lord is going to allow Esau to get busy upon you 2/3, man, you know? And we just pray and hope that the Lord has mercy upon us in these times and that we be of his elect, you hopeful elect brothers and sisters out there that are in the truth. We just pray and hope that the Lord can have mercy upon us, because we know that these times are approaching, man. Like I said, Donald Trump is going to continue to keep showing those horns, man, you know, as time goes on, man. And we're living in that time of season where, you know, things are about to get worse for this country, America, man. Like I said, you can see it. You can feel it. The writing's on the wall, man. You know, you got to be stupid to not see what's right in front of your face. You know, but like I said, a lot of our people, they're not going to see it because they're in the darkness. They're not watching and seeing what's going on. They're not seeing all of the laws and things of that nature, which these people are putting into place. They're not paying attention to what's happening around the world, you know, with the prophecies that are kicking off and the things that are happening. You know, these people worrying about TikTok and social media and Instagram and, you know, all type of other foolishness, man. But when these times come upon them, hey, they're going to wish that they sought after the Lord, man. They're going to wish that they was, you know, seeking the Lord when they had the time to do so, man. Right? They're going to wish all of that in these times, man. You know? So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying. Just something quick through the spirit. Till the next time, I'm going to say shalom.